Hi, everyone. Welcome to Art and Talk. Thank you so much for being with us today. Art and Talk is all about meeting artists and being inspired. If you're new to us, Art and Talk is an online interviewing platform for artists to share their art and their creativity and their passion. We embrace all the arts, the traditional arts and the spiritual arts, to bring you diverse and quality interviews to watch and to be inspired by. If you're new to us, welcome. If you've been watching us for a while, thank you. We so appreciate your support. I'm Leslie Sue, the host for Art and Talk. Today, we have a guest author, and she's also a consultant, and she has written a book called Dear Miss Insecurity. And the core message of the book is about empowerment for women, and particularly for women of color. And as our author, in her own words, has said that she's going to unveil the face of insecurity, and we're going to take a look at how this affects relationships. So I'm so excited to bring to you today our guest author, and we'll dive into her book. I'd like to welcome our guest for today, Fredrecia Holton. Fredrecia, welcome.
Thank you for having me. Hello, viewers.
Yes, all right. So Fredrecia, before we get into your book, tell us how this whole message began, focusing on women, focusing on empowerment.
Yes, so I have witnessed and just been in a lot of social circles and have experienced myself on how women played on other women based off of their insecurity. I've experienced it, and I've been in social circles where I've seen women trying to validate others. And so after a while, I wanted to see how I could make a change in global impact on that toxic behavior and bring awareness to it, because a lot of times people are not called out on that behavior. You know, people like to keep their friend, or they fear addressing it. So I wanted to do it in a book so that it's addressed and people can go through their healing process in private if they choose to, but it's still being addressed and called out. So that's what inspired me to write.
Right. So it sounds like Fredrecia, so this was something that was kind of in your environment that you were actually kind of witnessing, experiencing, and then that kind of made you say, okay, hey, wait a minute, we need to address this, and then you started to write about it.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Now, prior to that, were you writing on other subjects? How has writing been an area that's been active in your life?
Yes, from a kid, I've always loved to write. My favorite was when I was a child, and it was like poetry. So I've always been a writer, always have journaled. I just never published what was in my mind, my thought process, and what was on paper.
Mm-hmm.
But this behavior, the toxic behavior, it had such negative impacts on relationships. So I had to think of a creative way where I could help. It could be a win-win for the person who is being played on, and for the person who is trying to validate others, so that both parties can receive healing and it's not an embarrassment. They can kind of heal on their own in their own private time by just reading some of the key points that are being called out, the common themes in this book, because sometimes people feel like it's not noticed, but we see it, but people just don't say anything about it.
Mm-hmm. So you want to bring this out in the open, and you want this to be addressed, and it's also a book catered towards healing, and you're saying that one can do the healing in the private of their own home based on your instruction.
Correct. Just based on sometimes when you address different situations, most times people think that they're the only ones that may have experienced it and have gone through that. And when they find out that they're not the only ones, then it's like, oh, okay, I'm in the Me Too group, and it kind of makes them feel a little bit more confident about getting help.
Mm-hmm. Right.
They don't want to go say to someone sometimes because of that pride. So if they read it and say, oh, wow, that was called out, or oh, wow, that is me, they don't have to experience the shame or, even though it's noticed, but people may not say anything, then you deal with you, because the genre of the book is self-help. So you focus on yourself. And then you don't have to do the name, the blame, point the finger thing, and then have the defense card up, because you know what you have done, or you know what has been done to you. And then you can move on in that book and go through your own self-healing process.
All right. You set that up beautifully for us. You also created a video of your book. So let's go ahead and take a look at the cover, and then we'll dive a little bit more into your book and have you share some sections with us.
Okay.
All right, just a moment, and I'll pull that up. Right. That was a great video you put together.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I love the cover too, where she's looking into the mirror. So you kind of have that reflection going back. Tell us a little bit about your decision-making process, Fredrecia, for choosing that to be your image cover of your book.
That was a very exciting piece. When you're writing, people have different writing styles, but for me, I just jot down, journal my ideas, and then I'll put the chapters together. So when I created that image on the front cover, people always trying to pick out other people's flaws. And so this is a self-help book. So I wanted people to reflect who they really are and not who they want to be. So that is where that idea came from about the book. It's one woman is looking to the mirror, but when she looks into the mirror, it's another image.
I see. So it's really about being authentic and kind of owning up to the real us inside, and not kind of putting on that mask, so to speak.
Yes.
All right. So we would love to hear one of the excerpts from your book, if you'd like to kind of go into that. Tell us what it's about.
Yes. So the first one I will introduce is chapter 1. And the name of that chapter is Check Yourself. I chose Check Yourself because I feel like if you can examine your own self, then you can embrace, after you face yourself down, the flaws, you can embrace self-love. So, but in order to get healing from toxic behavior, whether you're the one given the toxic behavior or whether you're around it, you have to be able to check yourself and check your environments. Because in this book, as I'm unveiling the acts of insecurity, sometimes the negative behaviors people are unaware of, it goes like unnoticed. But in the book, I will unveil some of the acts that people are not aware of. So you have to first examine yourself and your environment. So that I'm going to read just a snippet out of chapter 1, if you don't mind. And it says, there's a common cliche which says that you need to first remove the particle in your eyes before you help others to remove theirs. One of the commonest ways to get to see insecurity being displayed by a woman in her lack of hesitation to point out what is that is not good about others. The general rule of life is for you to appreciate a person, after which you can further tell them what you think is amiss about them. However, a life filled with insecurity will always be blind to appreciation. The sight is only open to see the wrong in the person. And it goes on to talk about, you'll know whether you are battling with insecurity or not if you find it hard to appreciate others, but only look out for their flaws. So one of the juicy pieces in the book, it says, it is insecurity to only point out the flaws of a person while you turn your eye blind on the good things about them. A finely dressed lady comes out for a compliment, but all she gets is a comment about how rough the zip of her gown has been made. There is no other name to give such act but insecurity. So that's one of the acts of it. You know, instead of checking yourself, you're always looking for flaws in others. And that's because you're insecure. So it's almost like, if I can put the magnifying glass on you and find a little something wrong with you, then that'll take the eye off of me with all of my flaws.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So in order to, you like that?
And I love your analogy, Fredrecia, using like the magnifier. It's like you're saying, if we're not putting the magnifier on ourselves and looking at ourselves and being genuine, then we're putting it on someone else, and then we're looking at their flaws, and we're not, as you said, appreciating them. And you're kind of like defining kind of like a basic of insecurity is kind of like shooting out those criticisms and the this and the that. And as you're saying, it's almost like a shield so that we're not putting it back on ourselves.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right. See, my mission has always been to help women with personal development and others to become secure in who they really are. And my passion is building and elevating women and women of color by helping them with personal development to embrace self-love, creativity, uniqueness, and entrepreneurship. So if you check yourself and you come to a point where you're happy with yourself, you're going to have an optimistic, positive mindset. You're not going to always look for flaws. Even if you did have to tell someone something was wrong with their zipper, you would compliment them first. You're complimenting to see the good in them first. You notice the good in them. Okay, you look very beautiful. Let me just fix your zipper. Mm-hmm. Not go right to something that is probably nothing wrong with anyway, but you want them to feel like you need to validate them by fixing the zipper, by pointing something out like, oh, you look good, but I'm not gonna acknowledge that you're beautiful in this moment because I don't feel like I'm beautiful. So I need to kind of pull you down like something is wrong with you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So basically you're saying it's all about the confidence within, yes, and it's about self-love and keeping that focus on ourselves. And I love the kind way that you presented that if you did want to mention something to someone, that, you know, first of all, you approach it in a way where it's complimentary and it's almost like an expression of love. And then maybe you kind of go into something, you know, if you feel that is something, you know, of merit to even mention.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. It's always very important to see address the good, then the bad. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. With women, because we're emotional. Mm-hmm.
Right. So, and it's also like taking the like when you were reading, one of the kind of visuals I got, Fredrecia, is kind of like taking the blinders off. And he used also the example of the eye. If there's like a particle in your eyes, like you have to get it out of your eye and not be focusing that on somebody else.
That's so it's right.
Kind of like lifting the blinders, so to speak.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Let's go ahead and hear another section of your book, if you would.
Okay, I'm going to read chapter 2, and the name of that chapter is called Frenemy. So it says, I need to point this fact out. It is common among every insecure woman you will ever meet. They show themselves as friends, but act as enemy. Acting as enemy while they are friends is usually done in different ways. One of such is to always size themselves up with their friends. What do I mean? An insecure woman will always find ways to be better than her friends. This she will show in her attitude whenever she needs to go on an outing with her friends. She is the kind of friend you will have that will never dress up for an outing you both are going together unless she sees you dressed up. She will want to know your choice of dressing so that she can go ahead and plan for a better one. She is interested in being the most noticed among her friends. If you use a special lipstick, trust that she will try and get a better version of the lipstick. If you have your hair blown, expect her to increase the length of her hair by 50 inches or longer toward her back. Your manicure will always spur her to get her nails fixed with Freddy Cougar, which has a design lace on each. Her intention is to be the face of the show you both are attending, and to achieve that, she needs to have the best look.
Mhm.
So that's just a small snippet of chapter 2, calling out another act.
Mhm. Mhm. So
And
we're
I have
looking,
experienced that on numerous occasions.
right. Okay. I hear you there. So we're looking at relationship as female to female friends.
Yes.
Mhm. Okay, and then it's kind of like how you're explaining it. It's kind of like trying to like one up someone.
Yes.
Okay, so here you're identifying it. So tell us some of the ways that this can be looked at in a healing space.
In the healing space? Okay. So I have a part in the book that's in chapter 11, and it's called Secure Your Own Bag. And that's one of the ways you can take steps towards your healing process, because if you're focused on being confident and you give yourself self-love, then it doesn't matter with you trying to call out somebody's flaws. It doesn't matter that you have a short haircut and their hair is longer. None of that matters, because you're in your own lane, you're confident with yourself, you love yourself. So you're going to count your blessings. You're going to take steps forward to be in your lane and find your niche and do whatever it is that you've been talented and gifted to do, not what another woman is doing or trying to find something else that's going to make you more money than the other woman. Just be happy with you, count your own blessings.
Mhm.
And to do that, you have to be confident in yourself, and you have to really know yourself and be comfortable with who you are, whether you make less or whether you make more. Just be thankful for the doors that are, open to you.
Mhm.
So chapter 11, Secure Your Own Bag, talks about that, as well as chapter 10, which is Love Thyself. And then chapter 12 is We Hear Your Envy. But the conclusion is, I had a quote in the book in chapter 12, and it says, "Girl, we see you and hear your envy because insecurity gives many signals and makes a lot of noise. Confidence moves in silence and has a healthy and wealthy impact." So if there's somebody around you that is, their world is so toxic where they make you feel so negative when they're in your environment because everything is always a competition, you kind of need to check that. Or you always need validation, or you feel like you need to validate someone, you kind of need to check your surroundings.
Mhm.
Yeah, check your surroundings and check yourself.
Mhm. Mhm. So this
Yeah,
is all.
insecurity is a lot of different problems that goes off into different other things.
Mhm. Yeah, I love how you're illustrating it, and I really like that was so beautiful, Fredrecia. You said that insecurity is noise, And then you said that confidence moves in silence. I thought that was very, very deep and very profound. And so this is all about, as you were saying, with the self-love and, building that confidence within and counting your blessings, as you said, and also looking at your gifts and talents and what it is that you want, to share, from that level. That it's all about just moving in, and not, focusing on all this external stuff, like with another person, like getting into like the hair, the this, the that, the clothes. It's, all that, that is not really getting at the core and essence of who we are. It's really just, looking at really a superficial level.
Right. And social media gives a lot of that for the millennials. People are posting who they want to be, and then you have somebody on the outside looking in, trying to be like that person that's not even their real life. That's just what they posted.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So they're really not what they post to be. And that has opened up a lot of levels of insecurity as well. Because a lot of that stuff, people can't even afford the lifestyle that's being shown on these social media platforms. And so it starts playing with the mind. Also, it plays on the mind of the people that are posting, and they're not really who they say they are on that social media as well.
Mm-hmm. So we're looking at authenticity as well.
Yes, most definitely. So that's where I come in to, kind of help people find themselves where they don't have to be the copycats. They find their niche, find their talent, build it, embrace it, show them how to get a license in it or whatever credentials that they need. I will gather the information so that I can help build a better them. And I do have something that I use, and it's in the book as well. And it says, remember, being me plus loving me has built a foundation of a secure, creative, unique entrepreneur equals a better me. Thank you for allowing me to help build a better you.
I'm going to have you read that again. I really like it.
Like that. It's being me plus loving me has built a foundation of a secure, creative, unique entrepreneur equals a better me. Thank you for allowing me to help build a better you. I wrote this book with the intention of, if I can spread this positive, all I want is for the readers to gain something from it. If they gain in one chapter, anything, everybody's in that book on one side or the other. You may not be doing it, but you may be in a circle that is, has that behavior going. And if I could just spread that like cancer instead of the toxic behavior, do it in a more positive light. I mean, one helps one, the other helps the other. It just kind of just spreading that way. We got to change the mindsets of individuals, and that's the only way that that's going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that. Changing the mindset. Yeah. Tell us about how, since the book is out, have you had any feedback, particularly from females that have read it, that you can share with us?
Yes, I have. I've had different reviews on it, and they've actually enjoyed the book to the fullest. And some of them admitted to me they were in the book. Mm-hmm. Some of them struggle with low self-esteem, and it's because they've always been in circles where you always got this one person that needs to validate everything. So there's one chapter in the book called Be Beautiful. It's basically talking about being yourself, and then self-love, and then a lot of them were like hand clapping too. There's a chapter in the book where it's several chapters in the book of things that have happened to different individuals. And I got like the applause of, yes, thank you for saying that, because that happened to me, or I know somebody like that. So I've gotten it on both sides, where somebody was doing the behavior, the negative behavior, and somebody else was the victim of it.
Mhm.
And they really have enjoyed the book. And it's a short piece. It's only 32 pages. So I wanted to make sure I held the attention span on a self-help book. I didn't want to sound like I was beating or bashing that behavior. I was just bringing awareness to it and then explaining how you can get healing from it.
Mhm.
Saying
Yeah.
that, hey, there's light at the end of the tunnel.
Right, right. It's not like you're not condoning that behavior. You're just saying, like what you said so beautifully, Fredrecia, you're just shining a light on it, bringing it out. So it's in the awareness, and then you're offering some kind of like tools and tips to for self-healing, to kind of gain more of that sense of empowerment and confidence and just loving yourself.
Yes.
Mhm. Now,
And being around positive people.
right, right, exactly. So your message would also be, if you're experiencing that in a social circle, I mean, a work environment, whatever that situation is, what is the advice that you would offer?
Oh, come out of the place of toxicity. It has a death pit.
Mhm.
Yeah, it has a death pit, and put on the garment of confidence and security.
Mhm. Mhm.
That's my message to that type of behavior. And then, like, if they need extra help with, esteem, that is where the consultant comes in on whatever it is. I find out whatever it is that they want to do
Mhm.
and help them find their niche. Because sometimes people, like I said, the front cover of the book is a reflection of one young lady looking in the mirror and see somebody else. So we first gotta get them to accept the real them. Once they do that, then we can build.
Mhm.
Then we can start on their creative side, find what their niche is, see
Mhm.
what their passion is.
Mhm.
Because once you get that mindset to change, then they're in their own lane. They're secure in their own bag. Chapter 11, they're not worried about what the other person is doing
Mhm.
because they're comfortable in their lane and comfortable and confident in what they have developed. And then they're busy.
Right,
They're
yes.
busy.
Yeah, I love that. You just gave us really good, like building blocks, a really good outline. You really have to start like where you're at, where you are, and kind of like looking inside. And then, as you said, Fredrecia, from there, then you can build, looking at your skills, your abilities. I'm just going to go back to, counting your blessings, really kind of seeing what it is about you, loving that, and determining how you're going to express that in a creative way, in a productive way, and just keeping that focus on yourself and not that other, almost kind of like nitpicking kind of
Right.
thing that as you're saying can be really toxic and is highly unnecessary.
Yes.
Mhm.
I know I would want to walk into an environment of secure women where there's a lot of love, a lot of networking, versus walking into an environment that's negative and it's like you have a hater over here, a hater over there, and you haven't even gotten a chance to even introduce yourself.
Mhm.
They just look and maybe you remind them of an experience that they had and you're already judged.
Mhm. Now, let's say, Fredrecia, that someone is maybe in a workplace, or maybe it's even a family situation, and let's just use the role of maybe when they see a particular person or interact with them on whatever level, could even be like in a friendship situation, whatever that experience is. Let's say that they're on the end where the other person is kind of dishing that out. Now, if it's, let's say it's a work environment or a family situation or friend, now let's say that they, in a work situation, you kind of have to, work with that and family situation. So give us some tips and tools that I know you're saying kind of like not to kind of, put yourself in that situation, but that situation could easily come up in any situation. So give us, in your estimation, what that person, you would advise them on if they kind of experience that.
Yes, there's a chapter in the book that talks about you'll always be a diamond in the rough trying to take her shine, and that deals with the workplace. We have a lot of individuals that they know that they're not qualified for the job, and they know you are, but because they want to be in the light, they will play up under you. You train them. Of course, they don't have the credentials, but nowadays they have a buddy system going on. So as long as they can find somebody up under them to complete the work, it makes them look good. So it talks about that in the book, and that this is about, some people fake it till they make it. Then you have some people who they'll fake along the way, but then they'll also learn the process too. By the time it's at the end, I can respect that. But for the ones that are not, you're not deserving of the position. You know that the person under you is doing all of the work, and then you're not even trying to learn while you're at the top, and then you're discrediting them, and you're making them, in a sense, dumb down because they know they have the knowledge and you do not. That's another thing that you have to that's in the book that people need to face down as well. And then the other example is a family member. There are plenty young little girls, they're not told that they're beautiful. They're not taught hygiene, self-grooming. They're not taught to every day look in the mirror and say, no matter what I can do it, I'm beautiful. Because they don't have anyone teaching them that information. So, I have a daughter. She's an adult now. But when she was younger, a family member was trying to pull away her self-esteem by telling her she was ugly and all of that. But I had to rebuild that. And so building that, I bought her different things that would have like a positive impact on how, a woman should be, perfume, earrings, different scented lotions like Bath and Body Works, little things that count. Some of her favorite garments, her hair, and every day before she went to school during that time, I would make her say, I'm beautiful. And that helped. So now she's, confident. And I would also tell her, you look beautiful, you're my baby doll. And I still, tell her that, and that helps. So you always need, somebody in your corner when you're a child to kind of usher you into that. If not, it's going to cause problems with insecurities as you get older.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because that child is going to always look at the young lady that was always told that she was beautiful and try to measure up to that, because that is what society has made her think, because they've told the other little girl she's beautiful. So that's all she sees. Nobody ever told the other little girl, you're beautiful. So she's going to try to measure up to who everybody else thinks is beautiful, because she was never told she was beautiful or never taught to tell her own self, I'm beautiful.
Mm-hmm. I'm so glad that you shared that personal story with us. And I think that can certainly be a situation, for many young girls that maybe they don't have, a parental figure or family member or someone in the community, speaking those words of encouragement and upliftment and empowerment that you're beautiful, you're worthy, all those wonderful, affirmations. And then that can cause a lot of, disturbances, as they get older, if they don't, gain that sense of confidence and that self-love. And as you said, with all the, comparisons going on, but in a true sense of honoring and loving yourself, you're not going to go in that direction of comparisons, because it's not even going to be really in your line of sight, because it's not even something you're going to engage in.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And now you mentioned that you have a section of your book called Beautiful that goes back into self-love. Is there anything from there that you can share with us?
Yes, it talks about being you, being yourself.
Mhm.
So it's be you, the letter U, tifo. So a lot of times with insecurities, people look at others, as I stated before, especially on social media, and they try to be like what society says looks good. So that comes from lack of self-esteem, thinking that they're not, that their self-worth is low. They don't know their self-worth. So they don't know how to be themselves. They don't even know who they are. They try to be like whoever society validates and approves, or whoever you, because you have some people that validate and they tell you what you are when you're not that.
Mm. Like
So
being who you are is so important. And you've mentioned that so many times. I just wanted to reiterate that because knowing who you are really gives you that solid base, that grounding, that sense of empowerment, of confidence, of worthiness, of, contribution. So that is so important that they're not really knowing themselves. And we're all sort of in a way on that journey as well of discovery and knowing ourselves.
yes.
Mhm.
And so what people who like to have control and validate, they plague on people with low self-esteem, and they'll tell you, you're not a nurse, you're a janitor. Regardless of what it is they're trying to make you out to be, you're not that. You have to really find you. You're not that just because they say you're that.
Yes, yes, that is such a good point because there's a lot of that sort of like verbal dishing that
Yeah.
one could experience, and that is not even true. But if you haven't found that footing and that sense of who you are authentically, and with self-compassion and love, then you could kind of fall prey into what someone else says, but that voice is not the true voice. The real voice is inside. Mhm. Yeah.
That's so true because a lot of times people don't even get to see your talents or your gifts or skill set because from a child, you've been told to be somebody that you really not. You're really not. It's somebody who everybody else wants you to be in those type of toxic environments that normally happens.
Mhm.
So by the time they're a teen or an adult, they're playing catch up. We're trying to find out who they really are because they've been confused as a child by trying to be validated by different individuals of who they want that individual to be.
Mhm. Yeah.
So by the time they find out, who they really are, they have a hard time accepting themselves.
Mhm. Mhm. And with this book coming out and going through the whole process of writing and kind of going through the whole thought process, probably reliving a lot of things as you mentioned in the beginning, Fredrecia, of things that you had experienced, things that you had heard, which was kind of like the kind of like the catapult to even writing this book. How has it impacted you personally?
Oh, I feel so liberated and free. And the fact that I got a lot of good feedback, I really didn't focus on if I was going to get any bad feedback because I'm not for everyone. My book is not for everyone. It's open to everyone, but everyone may not receive it. So for the ones that I could help, great. You know, if all it takes is a couple to just spread their positive behavior around, and it would be great. So I feel really good about it. I feel very liberated. I feel like things that I've written is now in a book and it's globally all over the world. It's distributed this book is distributed in over like 60 different stores, Canada, um, Puerto Rico, India, the UK. Here, of course, Barnes and Noble's, Books a Million, Walmart, Target, Book Baby Bookshop, Amazon. It's all over the world, just to name a few. So I feel really, really good about making a change, a step to make a global impact around the world that's positive
Mhm,
for women.
mhm.
And
Yeah,
this
that
is just the beginning, so I'm really, really excited.
yeah, I could feel that. It's so beautiful. I love that word, liberating. And I think it also is a positive message to anybody who hasn't written a book yet, or maybe has already written one, and maybe they're going to write another one, to show that it can really have a lot of positive impact, as you were saying. We still have a few minutes, Fredrecia. I'd like to touch upon one area, and to get your insight, and see if there is anything specific that you wanted to address in this area. So going back to the beginning of the interview, we know what the book is about, and finding that voice, that sense of empowerment, and self-healing to override insecurity, being confident, particularly for women. But you also had said to address women of color. So is there anything that you would like to share that maybe you have found that is more in that specific area, or do you just see kind of women across the board? Do you want to touch upon and speak to that?
It's women and women of color, so it's just women across the board.
Mhm.
Of course, different cultures do things differently, but when it comes to women, our thinking from left to right, right to left, is the same. If you're born a female, so we're emotional. That's not going to change from one culture to the other. So our thought process is the same. It's different from a male. So it doesn't matter what your race is, color you are. There is something in this book that you're going to be able to relate to, whether it's in the workplace, whether it's in your childhood, whether it's just being you, whether it's self-love. None of this stuff, none of these chapters in the book has color on it. It's all dealing with just women. Yeah, the biological makeup, I guess I should say, of a woman and of a female. You're going to experience it at one time or another, or you're going to be in an environment where you see it going on, or you may be friends with someone that is doing that to another friend.
Mhm. Mhm. Right, beautifully said. And so really the core of this is just being your beautiful self, whatever that is, and just loving that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Loving yourself, building yourself. If you don't know how to start to do it, then you got to get in a circle where you can elevate yourself, build yourself to the max of whatever it is you're trying to do. But you got to make sure it's not because somebody else is doing it. You got to make sure it's your skill set and your niche, so that you can excel in it and have a passion for it.
Mhm.
And in that way, you won't be trying to always measure up with someone else. You'll be able to appreciate yourself and appreciate others.
Mhm. Yes, absolutely. That's such a good point. Through that appreciation of the self, you're going to naturally extend that to everyone else. And I love that, finding that passion within that we all have, and we have to discover that and build it, as you said, and create it. Yeah.
Yes.
So we have a few more minutes left, Fredrecia. What haven't we touched upon in your book that you'd like to share with us before we close the show?
Let's see what I can say. I can start with, okay, we talked about love thyself, or a fan. That's chapter 9. I can touch on that. I'll read a snippet of it. It says, have you ever observed the three wings of a ceiling fan working? They don't meet, although they look alike. They perform the same function, yet they are not meant to be met. This is similar to what our lives are designed to work like. Even though you are a lady as well as your friends, you should never measure your life with them. There are places you will never meet. Not meeting means there will always be a gap between you. This gap is what shows the differences between you and others. You need to understand this gap and celebrate it. It is what will help you build your relationship stronger. However, an insecure friend will never live the true meaning of this. She always wants to meet up in all things. To meet up, she will always be found searching about the life of her friend. She will spend a lot of time on her friend's social media platforms, such as Instagram, Facebook, and others to identify her activities and measure it along with hers.
Mhm.
So it's talking about like, there is no, I'll use an example, okay? Say you're in a relationship or you've been in a relationship and you and the guy, you're no longer together or the partner, whatever. And then you have this woman that sits back and looks at these different people's social media platforms to try to keep up with what the person is doing and trying to measure herself to that other woman or a partner, whatever it is that they're doing that has nothing to do with her. No matter how she tries to look like this woman, be like this woman, you will never, we're all made different. We're all made in our own image. So you looking at the social media platforms, trying to figure out, well, if I wear my hair like this, or if I put this dress on, then maybe if I look like her, maybe he or she will come back to me. It's not gonna happen. We're made all different. So as I was stating before, the book was talking about how the ceiling fan is made. It's a gap in between. Each fan is different. That's the same thing. When you're, as I was stating earlier in our conversation, conversing, social media just creates an image for people to try and measure up to sometimes. And that really, really gets into the mindset of individuals, because you're looking at something that may not even be true. It may just be for a moment. That may not be done every day, every minute of the day.
Mhm. Mhm.
So that's another chapter in the book. And then there is another chapter that's talking about wait on it. People plan for you to fail. They can't wait for you. What they thought was a downfall, they glorify that. It's I knew it. But then when you make a comeback, it's quiet. There's no celebration. You stand alone in it. And that's a shame that you have more people planning on you to fail than to celebrate you when you're up.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of things that's called out in the book, different experiences. I haven't called them all out because I don't know everything. I haven't experienced everything, but some of the most common ones or things that people think that's going to go unnoticed, I have called it out in the book.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. Fredrecia, we're going to need to close out the show. We would like
Okay.
to offer you the closing comments. So share with us how you would like to kind of close out this whole look of, that we've been investigating through your book. And let us know also how we can stay in touch with you and how we can get a hold of the book as well.
I'd like to first say thank you for having me, Art and Talk, as well as thank you, audience, for allowing me to help build a better you. You can follow me on Book Baby Bookshop, my profile, to see where my next book signing will be, or if I'm in your area. Also, you can purchase the book on Amazon, and I'm also on like Kindle for ebooks and different other sites. As I mentioned before, it's sold in over like 60 distributors around the world. You just type in Dear Miss Insecurity, and wherever you are, the book will show up in your location.
Mhm.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you, viewers, for tuning in.
Thank you, Fredrecia. Thank you for sharing your book with us and your insights into what insecurity is, looking at it in terms of relationships, social media, and then building that sense of true authenticity of self and self-honoring and self-love. What a beautiful message. Thank you, Fredrecia.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah. Much success with your book and stay connected with us. It sounds like you have some other writing potentials that are kind of like in the mix, so to speak.
I do.
Yeah. So keep in touch with us. We'll be excited to see what they're about. And thank you again for being our guest today on Art and Talk.
Thank you. Don't forget to go and purchase Audience. The book is $10. And as well as on ebook, it's like $4.99, $5.
Mhm.
Thank you so much, audience, and thank you, Art and Talk.
Oh, thank you, Fredrecia. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in with us today. We appreciate your time to watch our art videos and stay connected with us on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Twitter. We appreciate your support, and we'll talk soon on the next Art and Talk. Until then, be well and be blessed.